So guys, outside there, we welcome you once again. We are back again on Porana Official TV. I'm with a young Pan-Africanist called David Mutayega. So David Mutayega, today we want to discuss about unification of Africa. We know this idea of a single unified states of Africa has been championed by several prominent figures, both from the continent and the diaspora, with the most notable being Kwame Nkrumah and Muammar Gaddafi. When you come up to Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, as Ghana's first president, Nkrumah was the most passionate and influential advocate for a union government of African states. The United States of Africa, he believed that true African independence and development could only be achieved through political and economic unity to resist neocolonialism. He famously declared Africa must unite or perish. Without forgetting Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, in more recent times, the late Libyan leader became a radical proponent of United African States. He actively pushed for a single African military force, a common currency, and a single passport for all Africans, even offering to finance the African Union. We also have like this leader of Jamaica known as Marcus Garvey. The term United States of Africa was first mentioned in his 1924 poem, Hail, United States of Africa. His idea and the Back to Africa movement deeply influenced later Pan-African leaders like Nkrumah. Without forgetting our neighbor Tanzania, where we had a prominent leader known as Julius Nyerere. He was the first Tanzanian president. He was also a strong advocate for African unity and solidarity. He promoted the idea of African socialism, which was known as Ujamaa, and was one of the founding fathers of the Organization of African Unity. Though he sometimes favored a more gradual approach to integration compared to Nkrumah's immediate political union. However, we also have Ahmed Sekou Toure of Guinea. The first president of Guinea was a close ally of Nkrumah and a strong voice for African sovereignty, supporting the idea of a continental government. We also have this one, Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt. He was the second president of Egypt. He was also a key figure in the Pan-African and Arab unity movement and supported the idea of a united African voice on the global stage. Lastly, we have Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe. The former Zimbabwean president was also a firm believer in African unity and a strong supporter of Gaddafi's push for a single African government during his time as the African Union chairperson in 2007. So these leaders we have talked about were great thinkers. Among others, have consistently argued that only a united Africa can overcome the challenge of poverty, conflict, and external exploitation to become a powerful force in Africa. So David, as we have invited you in our studios to give us more highlight about what you think, if our founders, what they had started should be continued, should be completed by our former leaders today. What do you think about the unification of Africa? Thank you. We welcome you, and our followers would like to have more highlights, would like to listen from you as a young rising Pan-Africanist today. You are welcome. The microphone is yours. Once again, for an official TV, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.
Thank you, Mr. for the great question. It sounds so important as far as the process of African unification is concerned. If we talk about African unification or a unified Africa, we mean the following. Allow me to give some light about it, then we proceed. I can explain it in 3 to 4 words, then we proceed. If we talk about a unified Africa, we mean Africa having one army, Africa having one colors, all in all, Africa being one country under one leader, under one president. We mean Africa raising her flag as the United States of Africa. I wish to inform you that we have great Pan-Africanists who stood tall and strong in the process of unifying Africa. For instance, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, who managed to secure Ghana's independence, as well as in the year of 1957, around there, as history can prove that Ghana was the first black African country to acquire independence. Though we have countries like Egypt, which secured her independence a bit earlier than Ghana. But as you know, Egypt is not regarded as a black African country. Not at all. Quote me right. Egypt is regarded as African Arab country and not a black country. Quote me well. Kwame Nkrumah, as a great Pan-Africanist, he was the very first person to preach the gospel of a unified Africa. Because of his much love, determination, and much time he spent struggling for unification Africa, he was described as a more African than a Ghanaian by the masses of Ghana people. They used to describe him that you are a more African than our fellow Ghanaian because of much attention, much time, and property he spent trying to struggle for the unification of Africa. Though he didn't manage to hail it up to the climax, up to its success, but we believe by following his footsteps, Africa will unite one day. Africa will be a United States of Africa. In his advocations of having a united Africa, he managed to write many books. For instance, he wrote African Times. He wrote Africa Must Unite. But in his writings, in his books, he quoted a government that Africa must possess. He quoted a government like Africa must have as a unified Africa. In his books, he said, Africa must have a federation government. What did he mean by saying that Africa must have a federation government? Federation government simply means it is where you find that powers is divided between a strong central government and regional government. In other words, federation government means central government must have strong powers than regional government. This is what federation government means. From there, we saw Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt congratulating the idea of having a federation government, in other words, having a unified government of Africa. He congratulated the idea and the spirit of a unified Africa. But he advised that before having unification, before struggling for a unified Africa, before having a federation government, let us first campaign for the total decolonization of African states. If you remember well, Portuguese rule were very harsh in the year of 1963s, 1964s in West Africa here. In our brothers' countries here, take an example, the Sao Tome and the Principe, Guinea-Bissau, Angola, and by the way, Mozambique. They were facing harsh colonial rule from Portuguese. So Gamal Abdel Nasser said that, yeah, it is fine. It is everyone's wish for Africa to be unified, for Africa to have a federation government. But before, let us first campaign for total decolonization of our brothers' countries. As I've told you that these West African countries, most of them were still under decolonization of Portugal. If I remember well, these countries got independence after the Carnation Revolution in Portugal, just here recent in 1974. So Gamal Abdel Nasser, he was right to first say that let us first campaign for total decolonization, then later we struggle for unified Africa, we struggle for a confederation Africa. He said that before having unified Africa, before having a federation of Africa, before having a federation government of Africa, let us be using what we call a loose government, a loose administration. What did Gamal Abdel Nasser mean by saying loose government? Loose government simply means this is where you find member states having the most of the powers and than the central government. And this is the type of governance in Africa even today we are experiencing, which was proposed by Gamal Abdel Nasser in so saying that let us be using loose government in order to wait for our brothers who are still under colonialism to first rid out colonialism and they come join us, then we fight for unification of Africa. But the paining part, this is the type of government we are still using in Africa, yet the whole of Africa is politically independent. And if you remember well, I have highlighted and said that loose government was a type of government which Gamal Abdel Nasser brought as an idea that let us be using this as we wait our fellow brothers to come after them getting independence. We can struggle for federation government, which Kwame Nkrumah advocated for in his books, African Times. In his books, Africa Must Unite. But till now, we are following loose government, which was just a type of governance which they would be using in order to wait the rest African countries to get rid out of colonialism. As they come, we join hands, we struggle for unified Africa. But the most paining part, we are still using the same governance. We are still, which was there just to help us bring our brothers out of colonialism, and we fight and we struggle for a unified Africa. We struggle for federation government that was highly campaigned by Kwame Nkrumah. This loose government, it is the very government that brought these organizations, like African Union Organization. I normally define it as a corporation of independent states. Yeah, I'm right there. I believe I'm right. It is just a corporation because it is organization. But my question is, why should we cooperate? Why can't we become one? Why can't we have a United States of Africa? We stop being organizations. Why should we be organizations? Let us be one. This is what Kwame Nkrumah advocated for. Just me this organization, I just call it a backing organization that seldom bites. Because if you can be real about this one, is if somebody can just ask you to give 3 to 4 things this organization has put in place, nothing you can tell. So what is it about? Just is there in physically, just is there in ideas, but in actions we don't see it. Just it is there in ideas, but on ground. But my question is, what has it done? Since 1963, it has been in existence, but what has it done? Any dispute, has it ever solved? What is it doing? When African countries we are having misunderstandings in us, we can't go for African Organization Union. No, we just have to travel and go in NATO organizations to find the solutions. So if this organization of us as Africans cannot be in position to solve our matters, then why should it be there? Why should it be in ideas? No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. We must campaign for what Kwame Nkrumah campaigned for. Africa must unify. Africa must be one. Africa must have a federation government. Not this government which was put in place by Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt just to wait our fellow Africans to come out from colonization legacy. And we fight for the federation government. By the way, thank you. To clarify more about federal government is, it is where you find a strong or much powers are given to the center. It is a strong center plus region autonomy. This is the type of governance. By the way, this is the type of governance some big countries uses, like the United States of America, rather, because too much love for Africa. I remember myself, if I'm going to speak other words, I speak Africa. I'm saying that this is a type of government, federal government. This is the very type of government United States of America uses. This is the type of government England uses. So why not can't we adapt this? Then to clarify more about laws or confederation government, it can sometimes be called laws or confederation government. So confederation government, it is where a government is weak at the center but strong at the regional autonomy, which is the type of government Africa is experiencing now. Like our Africa must be strong at the center, not at the regionals. And this can help us in these civils. This can help us in these long-lasting wars in Africa, those that have failed to end. Don't think too far. It is just a system like governance we are using. We are using a loose governance. But if we struggle for federation government, if we struggle for unified government, we can be able to solve all these disputes. We can be able to have peace, everlasting peace in every country. Talk about Somali, talk about DR Congo, everywhere. Using this federation government, we can have peace, body keeping in Africa, not having these African organizations which are there in ideas, but on the ground you don't see them. In actions, they speak less. Though we have talked much more about Kwame Nkrumah and Gamal Abdel Nasser, there are other Pan-Africanists who managed to struggle for independence, though they didn't succeed. But following their footsteps, we can succeed. Following what they built, following the foundation they founded for us, we can stand on that foundation and we make a united state of Africa. We can stand on that foundation, we make a confederation government. We can stand on what Muammar Gaddafi showed us, who was assassinated. We can stand on what Haile Selassie. We can stand on what Patrice Lumumba. We can stand on what Amilcar Cabral said. We can stand on these people, the foundation they built for us, and we make a strong federation government of Africa. Though they were assassinated, though they were killed much, though they were violated, but our parents, they used to tell us that whenever a hero dies, another hero is born. We have seen young and strong Pan-Africanists who are standing strong and tall for the rest of Africa in order to unify Africa. Take for reference His Excellency Ibrahim Traoré, Professor Paul Lumumba, mentioned but a few, plus other people who have learned about the idea, who have done what Africa holds for Africans, who have learned what a unified Africa can possess, who are aware of what a unified Africa can do as far as transformation of Africa, our continent, is concerned. In conclusion, I want to highlight on these few things as I am concluding. Africa is the only continent in the world that can survive without importing anything from other continents. Here I mean, Africa is the only continent that can survive minus importing things in Africa. Just it can survive exporting, but importing, because Africa we are blessed. Which sector aren't we blessed? Should we talk about our minerals? Africa, we have abundance. We are blessed with minerals. Our land is blessed with minerals. Should we talk about agriculture sector? Our land is blessed with fertility. Our climate is blessed. What should we talk about? Just Africa, we should be exporting. We should be targeting just markets. But this other stuff of import, what should we import? In Africa, we have everything. But we shall keep on being blind until we advocate, until we rise, until we stand and make a unified Africa. We shall keep on blind until we have a federation government. The other federation government, the other government like Kwame Nkrumah cried for, the other government like Kwame Nkrumah struggled for. We shouldn't be having a loose government which was just there to make us wait for other countries to acquire independence. In Africa, we have 54 countries and all we have political independence, full one. But we are still using the loose government which was put in place by Gamal Abdel Nasser just for waiting for the fellow Africans who are still under colonial rule. So in my conclusion, I conclude by saying Africa must unite. Africa must have a federation government, not a confederation, not a loose government. But I believe one day or day one, Africa will unite. Africa must and will unite, following the footsteps of the early Pan-Africanists